Croeso nôl pawb I geiriau caeedig gan Cadeirydd y Pwyllgor Gwaith Mesur y Mynydd, Dr. Neil Wooding. Welcome back, everybody. I'd like to introduce Dr. Neil Wooding, who is the chair of the Measuring the Mountains Steering Group, who's going to close proceedings with a few words. Neil.
Diolch, David. Thank you very much. And it's fantastic to be here at the end of this process. And it's great to meet you all as jurors. I've kind of checked into the sessions during the week to understand how it's moving and the kind of and what's been talked about and the kind of themes that are emerging. So I imagine you've had a pretty full-on week because a couple of the sessions I've kind of keyed into is just thrown up lots and lots of ideas in my head about what we should be doing in this space. So if you've been subjected to it all week, I suspect you've got lots and lots of stuff racing around in your head. What I wanted to do was just pull out some what I think have been some really interesting thoughts that have presented during the course of the week, and that I think are absolutely pertinent to thinking about what matters in social care in Wales. I think Gwenda, as one would have expected, really helped to set the picture. I think she just reinforced the messages we know that are absolutely true. That people want a life and not a service, I think she said. And I think that's absolutely critical. And that the people should be the center of that process and be engaged as experts in their own lives. And that demands that actually services are a right and not just a privilege or the beneficiary of a welfare state. They're the thing that people should deserve. I think I mean, what I took from Gwenda's presentation was a sense of the drive and the commitment behind the legislation. And as is ever the challenge, it's taking that legislation and then translating that into something much more practical. I like some of the concepts about living well and the informal kinds of respite that actually make a difference to people's lives. So it's not often the big stuff, it's the small stuff. It's the flexible, kind of connected and engaged stuff that really makes a difference. And I think much of that was articulated through Ozzy Stewart when he said, actually, values driving people's behavior is really important in this space. That actually you can create lots of transactional services, and I kind of shared his view that services are generally designed by people who don't use them for the people who do. There's a real sense that that actually finding a way in which you can drive these services from a values base that is about everybody's benefit is really, really important. And I suspect we fall short of that. And I think partly because people get distracted in the problem of social care rather than the opportunity of social care. It should fundamentally be an opportunity to allow people to live full, meaningful, and active and engaged lives. And actually, it falls short of that space. So I think it's much more challenging. I think lots of other interesting things that came up for me was very much around, the fact that I think Sarah, Dot, and Katie and Helen kind of, for me, brought home this fact that there's an ill-fitting design behind some of these services. It's not deliberate in itself, and it's not designed to undermine or disempower or disadvantage, but that can be the consequence of a service that's designed in one place and delivered in another. And there's a kind of disconnect between the lived experience of people's lives and what gets delivered. So I think they help to, frankly, use their personal lived experience to diagnose the problem. And I think that's immensely helpful. I thought the good practice before and after the pandemic work, I think Dave and Nick French and Claire and later Sue and Amber were all really helpful in just reinforcing some things for me. We know we're absolutely true, like we only ever deliver through our relationships. We only ever thrive or succeed through our relationships. And it doesn't matter whether those are community-based or whether they're a relationship embedded in a transaction of a service that's being provided. relationship is the fundamental important thing. And if we want that relationship to be healthy and productive and mature and adult and grown up and empowering, we need that to be a co-productive experience. We need to be, everybody's got skin in this game, so we've got to find ways in which we can reinforce that message. And I think that came through loud and clear for me, and a really important recognition. I think today, I would expect nothing less of Chris Bolton and his colleague, that they excite you with their tales of the potential and the innovation and the spread of what could be best practice and opportunity and innovation across Wales. I mean, I think it's a journey. I don't think it's a single outcome. I think it's a journey. And in fairness to Chris, having known him for some years and know that he's operated in that space, he's brought lots of dedication to wanting to make services better. And I think we have to be relentless in our desire to make these changes, and we have to be intolerant of mediocrity services that are poor inside this space. So for all kinds of reasons, I suspect I would have taken a lot from the sessions that I've seen, if not least because they reinforced and clarified for me some of the things I think in my head about the way in which these services are being delivered, and how important and intrinsically significant they are in determining the quality of people's lives. I suppose I'm not going to wait for David to get hysterical about me finishing, but there are a few more things I'd quite like to share with you. I think having been exposed to lots of different insight over the course of the week, I imagine you've got lots and lots and lots and lots of ideas in your head, and they're swirling around in a complex mix of contradictions and complementary thoughts and feelings. My sense is, and the general wisdom is, don't try to make sense of it. Do not try to make sense of it. Just allow, over the course of your deliberations, of the rest of the jury, for the things that are really important to emerge in your conversations. And trust me, they will emerge. They will emerge. So you haven't got to codify or engineer or architect everything you've heard into spaces. Just allow the really significant stuff to emerge. And I think your personal insight and experience and your humanity as a jury will enable that to happen, and you'll grow that amongst yourselves. The other thing I'd encourage you to think about is how you manage to allow yourself to stand back from the immediate experience of some of the things you've heard. So it is really easy to hear, when you're hearing accounts of people's personal experience, to get locked into those experiences because they are so emotionally charged and they're so evidential of where services are failing to be delivered well. There's something for me about how do you enable yourself to stand back so that when we think about how we recommend to the Welsh Government what could be different in this space, we are taking a kind of holistic system strategic approach to understanding the issue. It would be fantastic to say to Welsh Government, could you sort out Mrs. Jones's issue because she's having this particular difficulty? And as worthy and as meaningful and as passionate and as humanitarian as that would be, actually, we've got an opportunity here to stand back and understand the system in its broadest context, and to think about the ambition that Gwenda outlined on Monday, and to think about how you can help grow that ambition. So in your deliberations, you can make real some of the things that I think Gwenda articulated she was searching for when the legislation became real and hard. So I think for me, that's probably really important. I think also the question for me is about, when I was thinking about it, is it looks to me like the same things don't matter to all of us. So when you think about how the services are being delivered and people's experiences of them, services deeply matter to people who are providing them, but they matter in a different kind of way to those who are receiving them and those who experience them. So there's something about how do we all get on the same page about what really matters inside this space, and how do we use our powerful human collaborative skills to make sure that when we are deciding what those services might be, or the pathway to which they're delivered, or the experience of receiving them, that they are co-generated. They're not something that just happens from a resource base to those who need those resources in order to make a difference. So I don't envy your task. I think you've got a really tall order, and I think you've got a lot to think about. I think it's a challenging space to be in. And as someone who was one of the original kind of gang who started the Measure the Mountain initiative, I find it deeply fulfilling to think that sometime down the road, we've now managed to gather together a group of people who've given thought and deliberation to why these services need to be different in the future and what we can do about them. So I'm deeply grateful for the time that you've given to this. I think your commitment to want to participate in this kind of event actually reassures me there are lots of fantastic people across Wales who have at heart the desire to make things better and make things different. So on that basis, I'd just like to say thank you very much. Thank you also to the team. I know David has done a fantastic job. And those you haven't seen as part of this process, so Joseph and Katie and Rachel, all of whom have been keen to make sure this delivers well. And to all the people who have delivered as part of, shared their experience and their knowledge and their expertise inside this space. I'd like to thank those as well. But good luck in your deliberations. It's been great to meet you.
Thank you very much, Neil. Diolch fawr iawn. Thank you.
Diolch.
And I didn't have to get hysterical at all there, so thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to say that's now the end of the online citizens jury for Measure the Mountain. Dyna diwedd rhithgor dinasyddion ar-lein o Mesur y Mynydd. A diolch i chi gyd am gymryd rhan, a diolch i gyd am wylio. Thank you all for taking part as a juror or a witness, and thank you all for watching as well.